I mean, it's 8 to 10. Is that what we're shooting for, Kerry? For timer, 8 to 10, or what's your goal for your speech?
How about 10 to 12?
10 to 12. All right.
Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I don't know if I'd have changed a thing if I had written it myself. And tonight we are going to talk about introductions. Specifically, introductions of speakers, whether you are a Toastmaster or you are going to a contest and you are an introducer, which we haven't done much in this, but we'll still talk about it. Tonight we're going to cover the basics of an introduction, whose responsibilities they are, some of the things you shouldn't do in an introduction, and how you should present the introduction to the group. And this is a speech that Toastmasters has provided the outline for. It's an educational series. There's a series of 10 speeches that we're going to give in the club over the next couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever, whenever we're giving an educational speech. We're going to get through the 10 speeches in this because they're very well laid out and important. So creating an introduction. An introduction is important. The major importance of an introduction is that it is a smooth transition between the Toastmaster and the speaker. Obviously the Toastmaster is an experienced speaker, they wouldn't be up here. But a lot of the people that are being introduced are not. So you want that first initial transition to be very smooth, and a good introduction will put that person at ease when they come up here. Another important factor of an introduction is that it puts the audience in the right mindset. The more the audience knows about the speaker or about the speech to be prepared, the more comfortable they are and the better they're going to listen to it. Now this will matter when it comes time to judging the speech and getting more out of it. So a good introduction sets up the proper mindset for the group. And finally, a good introduction helps with the speaker's authority. Now the speaker, if they're introduced as someone with a knowledge about the topic that they're going to speak on, you're more than likely to listen and understand what they're saying. You're going to give them that vote of confidence because, you know, if you're a lawyer talking about law, or if you are, as in Tom's case, we know he's a collector and he came up here with these rugs last week. If we know this ahead of time, we're going to tend to believe it more and we're going to get more out of the speech. So what are the essential things about an introduction? Now this is true with any introduction that maybe. Okay. This is true with any introduction that comes, whether it's from a Toastmaster or it's from an introducer. And these are 3 basic things. You must say the speaker's name. And you should say it more than once. You want the audience to be familiar with this person. You also must talk about the topic of the speech, because again, it's part of that setting the mindset with the audience. And you must tell the speech title. Now these are the 3 things that you have to talk about in an introduction, whether it's in our group setting or in a contest. Because in the contest, the other things are assumed, like time and things like that. But in the group setting, we go on to more things. So the Toastmaster has a different set of essentials. And besides the generalist name, topic, title, the Toastmaster must talk about speech assignment. And this would be what manual the speech would be from, what number in the manual, and what goal the speaker is going to have by giving that speech. And the reason this is important is because as we sit and listen to the speech, we're going to know that if it's a person's third or fourth speech, we're going to give them a little more credit towards, one, voting on best speaker, and we're going to, just in general, know what stage they're at as far as being a speaker. The Toastmaster must also set out the objectives in the speech. Now, these are the objectives set forth in the manual, and also the person's objectives as to what they want to accomplish by speaking that night. And finally, the Toastmaster must also give the time of the speech. Now, in a contest, time's always the same, but in the room tonight, or any night, the times of the speeches are going to vary. So it's very important that the Toastmaster gives the time, and the timer takes that into effect. Now, what do we do to write a good introduction? And whose responsibility is it? Toastmaster, it is your responsibility to get the introduction. You should work with the speaker to make the best introduction, but if nothing happens at all, it's your responsibility to get up here and give an introduction to the speaker, whether you've gotten all the information or not. So how do you approach that? Well, as a Toastmaster, you should think about what questions would somebody want to ask you when you're giving a speech, and you should ask those questions of the speaker so you get a proper introduction. And how long should your introduction be? Well, probably 30 to 45 seconds. If it's a really long speech, it can be a little longer because it might be more detailed, but a good introduction is only 30 to 45 seconds, a paragraph or two, and you're done. The Toastmaster should practice the introductions, a couple times before they come up here. Ideally, they give them without notes, but we understand how it works, and you should at least rehearse them before you come up here, because once again, you want this thing to start off right with an unpolished speaker. You want that transition to be smooth when they won't come up here. And finally, there's clarification. You should talk to the person giving the speech and find out if there's anything they absolutely want you to say in the introduction. Now, there might be some snippet of their life they want talked about, or there might be something about their life they don't want talked about. And you should know these things and be comfortable with them when you come up here to the podium. Now, with the list of do's, there's also a list of don'ts with every introduction. And the first thing you don't want to do is upstage the speaker. They're coming up here to learn. They're not coming up here to be second fiddle to the Toastmaster. So if you have greater knowledge in something that they're talking about, just keep it calm, let them talk about it, because right now they are the expert in this situation. Don't give any details of the speech out. You may not know them, so don't talk about something that may or may not be in the speech and throw the audience off. Don't surprise the speaker with any wild details about their life, or talk about something they did last week. Don't get someone off kilter, because they've already got enough on their plate coming up here to talk to the group. The fourth don't is, don't praise the speaker too much before he gets up here. Don't say, this guy's the best speaker you've ever heard, and then make him live up to that. Also, don't rely on cliches. Don't say, without further ado, or this man needs no introductions. No. Get their name out, get the subject out, get the time out, and get them up here. And finally, don't save the speaker's name until the very last thing you do. You want to break it in at the beginning, you want to say it in the middle of the speech, and then it's the last words you want to say before the speaker comes up. Now, speakers, you have responsibility in this too. You should be available when the Toastmaster calls on you to get the introduction. Don't avoid their emails. If you're going to speak, know that the introduction is as much a part of your speech as everything else is, and you want it to be right. So get with the Toastmaster, answer their emails. A lot of times, A good speaker, an experienced speaker, will even write the introduction for the Toastmaster. Now, that's not always the case, because the onus is still on the Toastmaster to get it, but a lot of times they will help the Toastmaster out that way. And then inform the Toastmasters if there's any special things going on that night. If you're going to have somebody up here to assist with the speech or something, make sure the Toastmaster knows that ahead of time so they can be prepared for it. And if you're going to use electronics, make sure they know that too. Okay, we've gotten our introduction done. Now what do? Well, we come up here to introduce the speaker. And we give it just like a speech. We look everybody in the eyes. And we deliver the introduction. And then we introduce the speaker. And they come up. And as they're coming up, we lead the clapping. So we start off the applause for everyone. And then when they get to up here, we shake their hand. And then we get out of there. The stage is theirs now. Until they're done, you're just somebody in the audience now. And then show interest in the speech. Even if it's something you don't care about, show interest in the speech, because the speaker is always going to speak to the Toastmaster no matter what. Because it's just a natural thing, because that's, the person of authority. So always show interest when you're the Toastmaster, give them good eye contact, kind of lead them through the group. Okay, the speech is done. You're not done as Toastmaster. You can come back up here and talk for another 30 to 45 seconds about the speech if you care to. One thing you want to do always is to thank the person who gave the speech. You can give some of the bullet points if you want. You don't have to save that just specifically for the review later. And then you might interject a couple of points about the speech so it stays fresh in everyone's mind about what you got out of the speech. Maybe they didn't. Maybe you just need to connect that point. But most of all, thank them for coming up here, because that's why we're all here, because we're not that good at this. We're trying to get better. And the Toastmaster and a good introduction can always add value to a speech and to the speaker's experience.
Thank you, Kerry, for that wonderful speech. For my next speech, I'll spend more time with Toastmaster preparing the introduction. Our second speaker is Sri Cheburu.